Yo, what is good, guys? Welcome back to another video. Stock market is in like a 9-day rally right now, going upwards. We're going to be talking about news, some stocks to watch, and some plays for the week, supports and resistance, everything that you need to know about the week. And we're going to start off with some news and just everything, man. Just look at how the stocks is for the week. We got Nvidia up almost 8%, Microsoft 13%, Meta 10%. We had some good news with Microsoft and Meta with their earnings and some decent stock movement too, especially Palantir. We're gonna be looking at Palantir a little bit later, but let's get into some news. So to start, we're gonna look at this calendar. So for Monday, May 5th, look at the PMI, ISM services. That should move the market a little bit. 15 minutes after market open is gonna be the PMI, and then 30 minutes is the ISM. Tuesday, we got trade deficit. This might move the market. This can be an hour before market open. It's not going to be anything insane, but we do have on Wednesday FOMC meeting, so that can move, especially when Jerome be answering questions and just him talking is going to move the market a decent amount. So keep that on your radar for Wednesday. On Thursday, we got the jobless claims, U.S. productivity. Jobless claims does kind of move the market a little bit. We got some wholesale inventories. That's also probably going to move the market a tiny bit, especially if you're trading SPY. We got some speeches. So honestly, all before market opens, and then we do got 11:30, so like 2 hours after market opens. That being said, man, let's get to some earnings because everybody is pumped up for one and one only, and that's Palantir, man. The contracts are expensive, and Palantir can probably go up $10 to $20 if it goes up, and maybe even down $10 to $20. And why I'm saying is because Palantir, they're almost at their all-time highs of like 126. So especially if the earnings is great, we can break above that. And then people are just going to keep on buying and buying and buying. So keep Palantir on your radar for this week. And that is Monday after close. So honestly, man, Palantir is a great one to watch. We got Ford, some other ones too. Not really anything major before market opens. I think Foot Locker might be a decent one to look at. Tuesday, we got AMD. Keep AMD on your radar. I mean, I think AMD is one that's kind of undervalued right now. And if you're invested into it right now for your long term, you might be able to make a decent amount of money. But honestly, there is risk with AMD too, having it in your long term. Rivian's okay. On Wednesday, we got Uber. I recommend looking at Uber and some other stocks too. Not really anything major. AMC. Shopify is another great long term. And then we also have Coinbase afterwards. We're going to be talking about MSTR a little bit later. We did have earnings with MSTR, but Coinbase also has a big holding in Bitcoin. So this can bring the stock up or down. But with Bitcoin rallying right now, Coinbase is in a little bit of a rally right now. But we're going to be talking about Bitcoin a little bit later because Bitcoin is kind of dropping at the same time. But let's talk about some news. So we got some news with Warren Buffett. So there's a bunch that was talked about. We're just going to summarize basically what all was talking about. So first off was by the end of the year, Warren Buffett, he's 94 right now, which is insane, but he will step down as CEO of Berkshire Hathaway by the end of 2025. If you guys don't really know, they made basically a 20% return on average with their stock. So I mean, it is honestly insane. Warren Buffett is just a great investor. Everybody knows, man. He's been making money when nobody else made money, basically. But he is going to be stepping down by the end of the year. And the current vice chairman, Greg, will assume the role of CEO. Buffett expressed full confidence in his leadership, stating he has zero intention of selling any of the stock and will remain involved. So they talked a little bit more about their cash reserve. So basically, they reported a record cash reserve of $347.7 billion, which is crazy, but it also reflects the cautious investment approach with the uncertainties we have right now. Earnings declined. The company experienced a 14% drop in operation profit to 9.64 billion and a 64% decrease in net income to 4.6 billion. But it's basically just due to unrealized losses on holdings like Apple and insurance losses from California wildfires. So it is kind of insane, but yeah. But basically, he did have some of his opinions. So basically, trade policy. So Buffett criticized the use of tariffs as an economic weapon, and basically just saying that former Donald Trump's policies and saying that trade should not be used as a weapon, and it's basically just fucking up the stock market, basically in short. But that's basically all that really went down. But honestly, man, he's 94 years old. You know, he's retiring at 94, which is insane, but he is pretty old. So yeah. But basically, the stock market comes all the way back and then some and then basically just talking about that 9 day streak that we've been having. And honestly, man, my opinion, are we going to keep them going up? Or are you going to keep them going down? We're not even close to all time highs, especially with the SPY. We're trading at like 570 right now. We still have a lot of room to move upwards. But at the same time, if we do get a pullback and or just some bad news, literally all we need is some bad news with tariffs, and it could bring the market down 50 bucks at least. But I think we do have like 50 bucks to move downwards and upwards. So we're kind of in the middle of that range of either we're going to move down some more, have another pullback, and or go back up close to those all-time highs. But don't expect it in the next couple of like weeks. It's going to be months or something. But with that also being said, you got to understand everything that's really going on and the trade policies. We do need to get a deal done. And I think people are just waiting on a great deal to put all of their money back into it. If we get a great deal and tariffs are as good as Donald Trump say they are, we can keep on going up. But then if we don't get a good deal and or we keep getting bad news, the stock market will probably crash. Not crash fully, but maybe go down 20, 30 bucks. So just keep this on your radar because we are kind of in a range where, I feel like anything can happen, so just be very, very cautious. But with that being said, some stocks to watch. First stock is going to be Apple. I personally have a long-term call for at least 2 months, but I think I'm gonna try to sell it this week, especially if we get up to like that 210 to that 212 level. Just make a decent amount of money, get in and get out. But with that being said, on Friday, I played a decent put option and then another call option and just made a decent amount of money off of that. But with that being said, some levels to watch with the Apple. Look at 206.5, 208, and then I'll be watching that 210 level next. After that 210 level, look at 212.8. Honestly, man, we did get some bad news, some bad earnings and stuff like that. But honestly, man, it brought it down. And then we stayed above that 200 level. So as long as we stayed above that 200 level, Apple was still looking decent. And we did have a little bit of a comeback. But we do have gaps to fill back up to that 212 level. So maybe we can fill it back up and or just consolidate. But I think we're either going to go up or down with Apple. But to the downside, look at that 204 level first, 204, 203, 202.10, and then that $200 level. If we break below that $200 level, look at that 198. Next one is the SPY. Like I was saying before, there's a lot of levels to watch. We can either buy back or sell off. We might have a Black Monday again. I mean, I think last Monday was a Black Monday, and just a couple Mondays in a row, we've been kind of selling off. But with that being said, I mean, I think last Monday we did okay. We did have a big sell off at first, but I think it started coming back. My apologies. But to the downside, look at that 566 level first. If we break below 566, look at 565, 564.5, 562, and that 561 level. 560 is going to be key. And below that 560, look at 558.5 and then 555. To the upside, look at that 568.5, 570. If we break above that 570, look at that 575 to that 580 on the SPY. So before we get to some other price levels, we're going to look at some stocks to watch. Of course, I'm going to include Palantir. Palantir just moving strong to the upside. We do have earnings on Monday. But with that being said, we zoom out a little bit. The highs is 525.4. So watch 525.4. And if we can break above that, which I think we can way before earnings, which is going to be tomorrow. But look at 525.4. And if we break above that, look at 528, 530, 535, and that 540 level. And then to the downside, look at 524, 522, 520, or sorry, I keep saying five. My apologies. I meant to say one the whole time. But basically same levels, but just put a one in front of it. And to the downside, look at 120, 118, 116.5, and 115 to the downside for Palantir. But honestly, man, I think we can rally up maybe even to that 130 to that 140. But just be very, very patient. I mean, that's really all it is. You can't really guess exactly where it's going to go, but you can just see where the momentum is going to say. Next stock is going to be Tesla, just because Tesla's moving pretty strong. And we kind of just been consolidating a little bit, kind of looking like a little flag. But with that being said, if we can break upwards, look at that 300 level first. I think we might be able to touch that 300 level this week, unless we get some bad news. Look at that 300 level, 310, 315, and that 320 to the downside. Look at 287.5, 285, and that 280 level, and then down all the way to that 270 level to the downside for Tesla. But I do recommend looking at Tesla because we might be able to make a little breakout and or we might just have a big sell off. Just be very patient. Next one's Intel. We have been kind of looking a little bit stronger with Intel, But honestly, have your patience. New CEO, they're changing up a lot of things. They can bring the stock back, but I think people are just being a little patient with this one. But this is one that I recommend looking at for long term, especially at that $19 level. If we get back down to that $19 level, I do recommend buying in. With that being said, to the upside, look at 21.5, 22, 22.76, and then that $25 level. To the downside, look at that 1998, 1950, and then that $19 level. And below that $19 level, look at 18.5, and then that $17 level to the downside for Intel. But I do recommend just having your eyes on this one. Don't I don't know too much about day trading this one. It moves very, very slow. Maybe a swing trade, of course, but just be very, very patient with this one. Next one is Pepsi. We have been falling down. If you guys know, this is like a staple stock kind of to say. So this stock will go up if you see SPY going down, and then if you see SPY going up, like we've been seeing, it's going to go down basically. With that being said, look at it to the downside because we have been falling down. So look at that 130 level, 125, and that 120 to the upside, 138, 140, 144, and then 150 to the upside for Pepsi. But honestly, man, just watch it to the downside. We might even make a big breakdown, just like we've seen with earnings, and or it might kind of fill the gaps back up. So just be very, very patient with Pepsi also. Next one is MSTR. We kind of mentioned it a little bit with the Coinbase, but it's just been moving consistently up with Bitcoin moving consistently up. And especially if we can break that 100K level, man, we can break this 400 level, maybe get to 420, 430, and then maybe even look at that 450 level, especially if Bitcoin just starts rallying. To the downside, if Bitcoin starts selling off, because we have been kind of losing some steam on Bitcoin, people are saying Bitcoin's going to sell off. Don't really believe it until you see it, of course, but MSTR can kind of basically fight the same battle Bitcoin would fight. So you can see it to the downside. Look at that 390, 380, 370, 360, and that 350 level if Bitcoin starts selling. And especially like if you have a lot of momentum to the downside, you see Bitcoin falling a bunch basically. So those are some stocks to watch. So basically, we are still awaiting some tariff news and things like that. So just understand the tariffs are kind of insane. We had some things that saying that like, if we can get minimum of that 10%, that it wouldn't be too bad. You wouldn't really see it too much. But right now with the 245% tariffs on China, you're going to be seeing that a decent amount. But if we can get a trade deal, maybe 10, 20, 30%, it's not going to be that bad for the consumers. And it can bring the stock market up even more. But people are just waiting on what is going on with the China and US trade war. We have been getting some decent news saying that there is maybe a deal getting in works, but we just don't see anything really major. So just be very, very patient with that because we might get some good news with that, and or we might even get bad news. So just play it once you get the news, just play it based on the news. Basically, you don't have to rush into it. Don't get FOMO. That's how you lose money in these markets. So yeah. But with that being said, thanks for watching the video. Smash the like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. We're gonna make some other videos too, but I'll see you guys later. Peace out.